Most people think the wealthy got there by luck or by one giant risk that paid off. The truth is more complicated. Yes, luck plays a role. Where you're born, who your parents are, the decade you graduate, but there's something else at play. Habits that stack over time. Look at any group of friends earning roughly the same salary. Fast forward 20 years, one of them will be far more secure than the others. Not because they made twice as much money, but because they treated money differently. They talked about it. They learned about it. They respected it. That's another uncomfortable truth. Wealthy people talk about money. They swap stories about investments, mortgages, salaries. The middle class often treats money like a taboo, as if speaking about it is shameful. That silence is expensive. Information gaps always favor the people who already hold power. So here's a challenge. Talk about money. Not to brag, but to learn. Ask your friends what they're paying for their mortgage. Share mistakes. Share wins. If Roger Federer can talk about tennis, you can talk about money. Mastery requires language, and silence breeds ignorance. My own story begins with chance. I had a single mother who struggled. I felt the shadow of scarcity follow me everywhere. That fear, that whisper of "you are not enough," drove me to chase economic security with an almost religious intensity. I didn't set out to save the whales or change the world. I just wanted safety. But fear alone doesn't build wealth. Action does. One of my earliest lessons came at 13. My mother's boyfriend handed me 2 crisp bills and told me to buy stock. If I didn't, he'd take the money back. That small push shoved me into a brokerage office. I walked out with shares of Columbia Pictures. From that moment, the seed was planted. Every weekday I checked the price from a payphone. That habit, that curiosity, lit a fire. It taught me something timeless. Exposure creates opportunity. Sometimes the door you need isn't opened by effort, but by being in the right room, meeting the right person, or asking the right question. But you have to be ready to walk through it. And this ties to another principle, risk. Wonderful things rarely happen inside your comfort zone. Think about it. Approaching a stranger you admire, asking for investment, starting a business that might fail. Each of these risks can end in embarrassment. That's why most people avoid them. But if you're willing to face rejection, you get access to rewards most people never touch. Salespeople know this better than anyone. They endure no after no until a single yes changes everything. They're overpaid compared to their peers, not because they're smarter, but because they're willing to be rejected more often. The world compensates resilience. And yet, risk isn't about recklessness. It's about timing. When you're young, you can afford to fail, sleep on couches, take odd jobs, start again. That flexibility is a gift. Later in life, when children and mortgages arrive, the cost of failure rises. That's when diversification becomes your shield. I once made the mistake of going all in. Every spare dollar I had went into one company. When it crashed, I wasn't just broke, I was buried under debt. The shame of holding my newborn son while realizing I couldn't provide still burns in my memory. That's when I learned the rule I live by now. Never go all in. Spread your bets. Protect your downside. Diversification doesn't sound exciting. It won't make headlines. But it keeps you alive. It means you can take punches and keep moving forward. Because in wealth, survival is victory. This balance between risk and safety is what I call the rhythm of wealth. When you're young, lean into risk, experiment, explore. When you're older, protect, diversify, build stability. Life gives you different advantages at different ages. The trick is to use the advantage you have right now, not the one you wish you had. The story of money is not a straight line. It's a dance between fear and courage, scarcity and abundance, action and patience. The sooner you learn the steps, the sooner you can move with confidence. Shall I continue with the next part of the script? Is this conversation helpful so far? When people talk about building wealth, they often imagine a straight climb. You start small, you hustle, and one day you arrive at the top. But the truth is far messier. Sometimes success feels like sprinting forward, only to trip and roll back down. Other times it's inching up slowly, so slowly you wonder if you're moving at all. The difference between those who eventually reach security and those who don't often comes down to one thing: how they respond to setbacks. I've lived through both extremes. I've had times when the numbers in my account made me feel unstoppable, and I've had nights when debt pulled me under like a rip current. What I learned is that setbacks don't just test your finances, they test your identity. They ask, are you someone who gives up or someone who adapts? One of the most painful lessons came from believing the myth of going all in. Culture loves the story of the entrepreneur who bets everything and wins. What people don't see are the hundreds who bet everything and lost. My company once went from millions in value to zero, almost overnight. Because I had tied everything to it, I went from wealthy to underwater. That single mistake taught me more than a dozen victories ever could. The lesson is simple: protect your future self. Never let today's ego put tomorrow's survival at risk. That's where diversification becomes a lifesaver. Think of it like wearing armor. Each piece might feel heavy, even unnecessary when times are good. But when the arrows fly, and they always do, you'll be glad you put it on. Imagine splitting your money across different baskets. Some into index funds, some into real estate, some into bonds. None of them will make you a billionaire overnight, but together they create resilience. If one collapses, the others hold you up. And this isn't just about money. Diversify your skills. Diversify your sources of meaning. Because when one area of life takes a hit, and it will, you'll still have others to lean on. The problem is that diversification feels boring. It doesn't make for thrilling dinner stories. No one brags about their balanced portfolio, but the boring path is usually the winning path. Fast failure or fast success are both survivable. Slow failure, the kind that drains you year after year, is what truly destroys people. That's why the idea of time matters so much. In your 20s, your advantage is flexibility. You can experiment, take risks, chase opportunities across cities or even countries. You can dance between raindrops because you have fewer obligations. By your 40s, the advantage changes. You may have a family, you may have fixed expenses, but you also have clarity. You can calculate what retirement will take. You can run the numbers backward and say, to live the life I want, I'll need this much saved. Here's what I have to do each year to get there. That's not pessimism, it's power. And here's the part most people miss. Life isn't over at 40 or 50. If anything, you still have decades of compounding ahead. The only thing stopping you is the belief that it's too late. Wealth isn't built in a single season. It's a lifelong series of seasons. Some for planting, some for growing, some for harvesting, and some for simply protecting what you've built. The goal is not perfection. The goal is to stay in the game long enough for compounding to work its magic. Money isn't the end, it's the means. The end is freedom, safety, the ability to care for your loved ones without fear. The end is walking through life with a lighter heart because you know the basics are covered. And when you understand that, you stop chasing the lottery ticket version of success. You start building the quiet kind, the kind that looks boring to outsiders but feels like peace on the inside. Dreams are powerful, but dreams without benchmarks can quietly turn into traps. Many young people chase acting, music, fashion, or sports without ever asking a hard question: what does it take to survive in this field, not just shine? If you're trying to build a career in an industry where only 1% earn a living wage, you need bright green signals early. Otherwise, you risk spending years running on hope alone. Passion feels limitless, but bills are not. There's a harsh but freeing truth. Mastery creates passion, not the other way around. The soapstone worker who became an expert didn't grow up dreaming of stone counters, but his skill gave him independence, family security, and vacations most aspiring artists only imagine. Mastery is what made him love the work. That doesn't mean dreams are worthless. It means they need deadlines and guardrails. 2 years to see if it pays rent. 5 years to see if it can support a family. Without limits, a dream can quietly become a slow failure, draining both time and money. And this is especially important in a world fueled by Instagram and TikTok, where validation is its own currency. Posting that you're an actor or a startup founder may feel good, but likes don't pay rent. The validation casino tempts you to stay in a game long after the chips are gone. The truth is, being excellent at almost anything is attractive. Economic security itself is attractive. A top 10% tax lawyer flies private while most actors in the same percentile struggle to pay rent. The world doesn't always reward glamour, it rewards skill. So the smart move isn't to abandon your dream, but to treat it with sober eyes. Test it, set benchmarks, and if the signals aren't there, redirect. Flexibility is not failure, it's survival. And this brings us to another overlooked point: geography. Where you are matters as much as what you do. Some cities are superchargers of opportunity. The waves there are simply bigger. San Francisco for tech, London for finance, New York for ambition in almost any form. Being good in a place of massive opportunity beats being outstanding in a stagnant one. It's the difference between surfing in Hawaii and trying to surf in a still pond. The waves carry you higher than your talent alone ever could. That doesn't mean you must chase glamour cities forever. It means, while you're young and flexible, put yourself where the snow is fresh and the waves are strong. Let the environment elevate you, because later in life, when responsibilities grow heavier, moving becomes harder. Opportunity is not evenly distributed. It clusters in certain places and moments. If you can, get closer to the cluster. It's not about fairness, it's about playing the game with the best odds available. And once you're there, the same rule applies as before. Be willing to take risks that others avoid. Approach strangers. Ask questions. Send emails that might go unanswered. Because behind every story of wealth and progress, there is usually one risk someone else was too afraid to take. Here's another piece of the wealth puzzle that rarely gets discussed: the dignity of work, no matter where you start. Too often, people sneer at jobs in retail or fast food as if they carry no future. But every company, even the ones that seem small or unglamorous, needs people who show up, take ownership, and lead. If you treat a job like it matters, doors open. The cashier who shows up on time, learns how things run, and treats the business as if it were their own can be a manager in 2 years. That role might not be the final destination, but it can fund the next step: training, relocation, or education. The best way to make a lot of money is to first learn how to make a little. A steady paycheck, no matter how small, gives you options. It lets you save, invest, and prove reliability to yourself and others. From there, momentum builds. But here's the filter to use: is the place you work growing? Growth covers many flaws. If you're average at Google, you'll do better than being great at a declining company. Growth creates opportunities you can ride upward, even if you're not the star performer. Look for 3 things in any job. First, is the company growing? Second, is someone there invested in your success? Third, are you learning? If the answer is yes, you're in a good spot, even if it doesn't feel glamorous. And don't do it alone. Build your own kitchen cabinet, a small group of people you can be fully honest with. Share your income, your goals, your struggles. Let them check your blind spots. It's almost impossible to read the label from inside the bottle. Trusted outsiders help you see clearly. This is also where mentorship comes in, but not the way most people imagine. You don't walk up to someone and ask them to be your mentor for life. That's too heavy. Instead, you start small. Ask for advice on a specific issue. Show that you respect their time. Over time, if the connection grows, they'll invest more in you. The act of asking is itself a skill. Short, direct, respectful messages get answered. Long, rambling requests don't. Referencing a shared experience or mutual contact helps. And persistence matters. Sometimes the first no isn't final. It just means try again later. Every big shift in life often begins with a small ask. A coffee meeting, an email, a question. Most people never ask because they fear rejection. But remember, rejection doesn't wound forever. Silence is survivable, and one yes can change the entire trajectory of your life. So start asking. Ask for advice. Ask for feedback. Ask for opportunities. Nothing wonderful happens without taking that uncomfortable step. The people who win are the ones who dared to be told no and kept asking until they heard yes. Think about the skill of decision-making. Most people assume great leaders make fast choices, confident and sharp. In reality, the best decisions are rarely rushed. They're slow, deliberate, tested against the wisdom of others. When you face a big decision, whether to sell a business, change careers, or invest heavily, it's tempting to trust only your gut. But guts are unreliable. They're shaped by emotion, ego, and the illusion that you see the whole picture. That's why you need to slow down. Consult your kitchen cabinet and borrow perspective from people who have walked the path before you. One mistake I made early was ignoring this. I turned down an offer that would have set me up for life, convinced the future would be brighter if I just held on. Had I picked up the phone and asked 3 people I trusted, I would have seen the absurdity. Instead, I learned the hard way. The cost of a wrong decision can be millions, but the cost of humility is only a phone call. This applies to relationships too. In the heat of conflict, it's easy to overvalue your own contribution and undervalue your partner's. Every long relationship requires forgiveness and patience. Without them, no amount of money or love can hold things together. And if you do split, the financial cost is brutal. Lawyers' asset splits, timing that always seems to work against you. Sometimes remembering the math alone can make you fight harder to repair what's worth saving. Partnership is a multiplier. Two people aligned on goals can build faster and withstand more than one person alone. Most of the wealthy aren't lone wolves. They're part of strong teams, whether in marriage and business or in networks of allies. And here's the irony. The myth is that rich people got there by stepping on others. In truth, most collected allies for decades. They invested in friendships, helped people when they could, celebrated others' wins. Over time, those small deposits in relationships compounded just like money does. So while you're building financial capital, build relationship capital too. Congratulate people, help them when they're down, introduce them to opportunities. One day, those loans will return value in ways you can't yet measure. Wealth is not just numbers in an account. It's also the safety net of people who want to see you win. And just like compounding interest, the earlier you start investing in those relationships, the stronger your future will be. Marriage and money have always been tightly linked. For some, marriage feels like a risk, a gamble where half of everything could vanish in a divorce. But if you zoom out, you'll notice something striking. The majority of wealthy people are not single. They are in long-term partnerships. Why? Because a team can build faster than an individual. Two incomes, one set of expenses, shared responsibilities, emotional support that lets each person take risks they couldn't face alone. The math is simple. Partnership multiplies resilience. That doesn't mean every marriage works. Divorce is expensive, financially and emotionally, but strong relationships often amplify wealth. They allow you to plan long-term, to combine strengths, to absorb shocks that would rouse someone alone. Beyond marriage, the same principle applies to friendships and networks. Wealth grows when you invest in people. Think of generosity as an early investment. A connection you helped 10 years ago may open a door for you tomorrow. A kind word, a referral, a piece of advice, all compound like interest. Here's the part that rarely gets discussed. Money isn't the end, it's the means. The real prize of financial security isn't showing off. It's being able to take care of your parents in their old age, to know your children's needs won't crush you, to choose experiences over anxieties. When you reach a point where money is no longer a daily fear, something shifts. You stop measuring wealth in objects and start measuring it in moments. Travel with your family, dinners that stretch late into the night. The joy of saying yes to things that matter and no to things that don't. That's why having a number matters. Not because the number itself makes you rich, but because it defines enough without a line in the sand. Greed keeps moving the goalposts. First, 1 million feels like freedom. Then it's 10. Then it's 100. If you never define enough, you never arrive. Wealth isn't the car you drive or the size of your house. Wealth is knowing that your passive income, dividends, rents, interest exceeds your burn rate. It's the freedom to work because you want to, not because you must. That's the quiet definition of winning. And once you hit your number, the goal isn't to hoard. It's to live, to give, to create meaning with the money you've earned. Because in the end, the real value of wealth is not in the money itself, but in the life it allows you to build. So how do you move from struggling to secure, from anxious to free? The first step is accepting that luck plays a role, but discipline does the heavy lifting. Being born in the right place at the right time can tilt the odds, but what you do with your time, your skills, and your money matters even more. Credentialing is one of the strongest ladders. Degrees, certifications, apprenticeships, they open doors that stay closed without them. A diploma isn't magic, but it signals to the world that you can finish what you start. It buys entry into industries with higher ceilings. If you can get one, it's worth the effort. Geography is another ladder. The city you choose shapes the waves you ride. Small towns can be wonderful for family and lifestyle, but if your aim is wealth, you need to stand where opportunity is concentrated. A mediocre performer in San Francisco during a tech boom will often do better than a star in a shrinking market. That doesn't mean you need to stay forever. Early in life, while you can share apartments and eat cheaply, get to the cities where the energy is strongest. Learn from the competition. Bump into people who challenge you. Build momentum. Later, when you have responsibilities, you can relocate without losing the foundation you built. But even in the right city, you can still feel stuck. Many people drift because they don't know how to escape the first job they landed. If you're working at a burger joint, a call center, or a retail shop, it might feel like a dead end. It isn't. It's a stepping stone. Show up on time, learn everything you can, treat it as training, then use the money, the skills, and the confidence to aim higher. Success is rarely about one leap. It's about stacking small wins until they compound into something that looks like a leap from the outside. The person who seems to have broken through overnight usually spent years quietly building momentum. And the path forward requires two tools: clarity and persistence. Clarity to know what you want and what enough looks like, persistence to keep moving, even when progress feels invisible. Every step compounds. Every skill adds weight. Every small dollar invested becomes part of an army. And one day, without fireworks or fanfare, you'll realize you've crossed the invisible line from surviving to secure. That's when money stops being the story. It becomes the background, supporting the real story, the life you choose to live. We've covered a lot of ground today, from the quiet power of saving and compounding, to the risks worth taking, to the truth that wealth isn't about flashy wins but steady habits and smart choices. At the end of the day, money is just a tool. What matters is the freedom, the security, and the relationships it allows you to protect and enjoy. If this video gave you something to think about, take a moment to like it. Subscribe if you want more stories and lessons that can help you build a calmer, stronger financial future. Share this video with someone you care about, someone who might need a reminder that it's never too late to take control of their path. I wish you luck on your journey. Remember, the boring steps you take today will be the freedom you enjoy tomorrow. Feel free to check out other videos on this channel if you want to keep learning and growing with us. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.